Hi, my name is Session, and today I'll be presenting a study that looked at the validity of the HEXACO-60 measure of personality by replicating a previous study. So first, we're gonna do a brief review on what we currently know about personality skills and replications of studies. Then we're gonna jump into the methods of how this study was conducted, followed by the results that we obtained, and finally finish with what can be concluded based on those results and look at the future directions possible. The replication crisis is an increasingly worrisome problem in the field. Researchers avoid replicating previous experiments because they don't get as much attention, especially if they don't yield significant results. However, there is value in replicating studies as it can help ensure that the skills and measures that we create are indeed reliable and valid. This is essentially what this study has attempted to do. It wanted to replicate a study by Ashton and Lee using the HEXACO-60 scale they created. The HEXACO is an inventory measure that assesses the dimensions of personality across 6 factors, those being honesty, humility, emotionality, extraversion, agreeableness versus anger, conscientiousness, and openness to experience. The HEXACO-60 is an inventory that contains 60 items. In their study, Ashton and Lee observed the highest intercorrelations between the pair of honesty, humility, and agreeableness, and between extraversion and openness to experience. There are 2 main concepts that are important to understand, and those are reliability and validity. Reliability looks at the consistency of the scores across measurements, whereas validity looks at the pattern of results and how they relate to the construct it is measuring. Based on Mestic's framework of validity, however, there's only one type of validity, and it's called construct validity. He also argued that validity is relative and that it depends on the research question itself. So with that being said, the current study hypothesized that if the HEXACO-60 is a reliable measure, then the same pattern of results will be observed. Essentially, we expect to obtain the highest correlation score, honesty, humility, and agreeableness, and for extraversion and openness to experience. If the HEXACO's dimensions are unidimensional, then mild intercorrelations overall will be observed between them. If the HEXACO-60 has a valid internal structure, then scores obtained for traits that are similar should correlate to one another. In total, there were 60 subjects who participated in the study. They were all psychology students attending Concordia University and also taking the Research Methods 2 class. They were administered a survey on the Qualtrics platform, and the study included the HEXACO-60 personality scale, 4 basic questions related to those HEXACO traits, a moral identity scale, and finally, a syllogistic task. Once the data was collected, the correlations were obtained for each pair of the HEXACO traits. Because the study focused on the HEXACO, correlations for the moral identity and syllogistic and belief bias were not obtained. Overall, low intercorrelations were observed between the personality traits of the HEXACO. However, the strongest correlations were those that reached a correlation of 0.29, and that was observed between honesty, humility, and agreeableness, and between honesty, humility, and conscientiousness. Overall, here we can see that those are mild positive correlations, which should suggest that these 2 pairs of traits are more or less related to one another. If a subject were to score high on honesty, humility, then they were also likely to score high on conscientiousness. However, unlike Ashton and Lee, we did not observe a correlation between extraversion and openness to experience. Given the first hypothesis, we can say that the relationship observed between honesty, humility, and agreeableness was indeed predicted. However, because there was an absent relationship between extraversion and openness to experience, we can't completely support that first hypothesis. The additional interaction that we observed suggests that some traits may be more related to one another. That being said, whether the HEXACO is reliable cannot be concluded even though our study failed to replicate the same pattern of results. Perhaps the study failed to truly replicate Ashton and Lee's study due to a significant difference in sample sizes, and therefore future studies should try and replicate that study with a similar sample size. Thank you.